I am joining the Avengers. Together we shall make a team to eclipse all others.
Hey everybody, this is PD from the Spinner Rack, and today I'm doing a video. This is probably you could say the second part to my partner's videos on Hercules. Since this is not to contradict anything that they said. I'm pretty much in agreement with most of what they said. I just wanted to add a couple bits here. Now, we're not going to get through all these issues. There's so many issues of Hercules in the Marvel Universe. And why didn't he make it into big stardom? But I just wanted to add, we were introduced to Hercules in this Journey to Mystery Annual #1, where Thor and Hercules have this clash. And I'm guessing it's something where the readers are writing in and saying, hey, is Thor stronger than Hercules? They already fought the Hulk, I believe. So they are deciding, hey, maybe we should have Hercules in there. So they get, and Jack Kirby does some of the classic George Reeves Hercules. Fighting Thor, right? And it's a classic battle, but this isn't the big one. This is just a teaser, but I'm guessing they wrote in some more, and they were just like, we get this big battle with Jane Foster kind of pushing the battle. And this one's this is like the second part. The issue before this, Hercules comes back, and Jane Foster thinks she can utilize Hercules to get Thor jealous. And this leads into a big battle throughout New York City on trains. It's just like, this takes the Hulk and Thing fight into like the next level, right? So they're fighting all over New York, and Thor shows no weakness until, of course, Odin comes in and decides to smack him down. And this leads to a side story, because the Hercules story keeps going, where he gets in tune with his with Pluto, one of his uncles, and that leads him into a contract where he's stuck in the netherworld, right? Whereas Thor, in his weakened state, saves Asgard, and Odin sees the error of his ways, right? So, but at this time where Thor is getting on this like kind of a positive journey, Hercules is on this journey of ego, right? So we can see the two characters are going in sort of a different way, right? Where, Hercules is more for adventure. Thor is more for, protecting Midgard. And, and he also he's not exactly, this is the closest Jack Kirby got to doing a Spider-Man-like character, because he's not like Spider-Man, but he has girl problems. He has many Hamlet moments where he's, kind of thinking his struggles torn between two lands, that sort of thing. So he doesn't have the wisecracks, but he does have the personal drama, right? That's known for many Marvel characters. And not a lot of people, they always talk about Thor being a braggart, but he's more of a, kind of a Hamlet type of hero who's introspective. He's always kind of thinking everybody. He is confident in his power and he's a good leader, but at the same time, he has these woes of his love being, him being torn between his love for Jane Foster and him wanting to be a part of Asgard, which causes him some issues because Odin's totally against him sticking with humans, because they're limited since we pass after, 80 to 100 years, right? So, in the second portion of the story, when Thor gets his powers back, Hercules got caught up in this deal where he's stuck in the Netherlands, and Thor comes to help him. This is where their friendship begins, right? So when he's free of the contract, we see him destroying the netherworlds and happy that his strength has returned to him. And we see Thor kind of trying to calm down Hercules, like saying, hey, you don't want to get Pluto's wrath again. And then he's like, oh, wait a second, Thor, my buddy. So he's also volatile. There's so much things to show how different he is. He wants some vengeance, but then Thor kind of calms him down, and he's like, wow, Thor is a great friend. So we're going to have some great battles together. And he's like, no, only battle for justice. And he said, then what good then be a god? That clearless Curry Hercules is far more profound than thou suspect. So, it's interesting to see the dynamic that they originally had. And Hercules comes back. We're going to get into some Avengers, the whole point of this thing, but I just want to give you some history. Where you see this page, we see that they're trying to show that they're not the same, right? Now, in the 80s, before what I'm going to get to, we had the very successful Hercules graphic novel. And this is Hercules. Obviously Earth is too small for Hercules. They take him out to space, and he has the recorder. Obviously his tales are legendary, so he has the recorder to stay with him. That's his sidekick in this story. But it's the problem when you have someone that's so similar to Thor. Only thing that happens is they don't come up with a new dynamic for Hercules. They just take it from Thor, right? Here we got Thor traveling in space on his own power, on his hammer, and he's got the recorder with him. So when you go back to this and you're just like, yeah, this is a dynamic worthy of Hercules. And you're like, wait a second, this whole people breeders with the high evolutionary, the man beast, this whole Tana Nile, this whole black galaxy thing. This whole thing is what kind of the dynamic that is used for the Hercules miniseries. Not the same space characters, but just having a god in space, saying that if there is space and there is aliens, the gods would kind of fight through them. Whereas I guess maybe Kirby didn't have anywhere else for Thor to go and decided instead of Asgard and the 9 realms, maybe he should travel through space. And every, Marvel is set up as, superheroes being a super genre. Basically anything can come into play. So it's kind of tough when you take a character like that. You haven't really found the dynamic in the Marvel universe for Hercules. You found Thor's, and you say, well, that would be cool. Where Thor is at this point, I think, did Walter Simonson take over? Walter Simonson, he took over Thor, and Thor even has less supporting cast. Like their supporting cast slowly, but they're just kind of way Ling Wen works, where it's just people that he runs into. It's not a regular dynamic. So he showed the Thor character could work with basically a new supporting cast almost every issue, right? And it's not, I think there was a bunch of people, but yeah, so I just wanted to give you that backdrop.
Then it's settled. Lead the way, friends.
So resuming the point of this is trying to find out how Hercules could work in the Marvel universe. Now, I think this was a step in the right direction because having him in Thor, he's a good supporting character, and it seems like he could also work in the Avengers, right? But one of the other things that you really need to stay in a title is that you have an advocate, and I guess Bob Layton was an advocate for Thor, but then someone else look at the character and say, wow, I want to do that character. And that's what happened with Wolverine. Wolverine, nobody wanted to do Wolverine. And then, you had Byrne kind of doing stuff with him, and then Claremont kind of piggybacking and doing more stuff, and then kind of putting a lot of energy into Wolverine, and then everyone wanted to do Wolverine. Everyone wanted to do, and then as popular he got. So that's where you can take a character, and that can almost be said for most of these characters here, where, if there was someone advocating or saying, hey, obviously some of these other ones would have made it into their own solo series, but now we see out of this group, We had Hawkeye did his own show. We have a Wasp, that sort of thing. So yeah, I guess you could say to some extent that these characters have made it on and found their way as they've gone along. But you really need a sort of a writer to kind of take on, or an artist to take the character, and the character kind of shoot the popularity, because at this point he's more of a reactor, and at the same time with the stuff Kirby did with Thor, it almost seems like you'd have to find some other thing for Hercules to do to make it not the same as the Thor stuff, as I showed you with the Bob Layton series. And not to say that that's not something that we'll do a show on. I just wanted to point out, since that there was three, it's like almost a trilogy. There's two miniseries by Bob Layton, and then the graphic novel. There is a later series, Twilight of the God, with Hercules, which is a continuation of that. But it's mainly, when he was done, his plan to do kind of a trilogy. So I just wanted to show you this sort of thing. This is where Hercules kind of joins the team, because at this period, Marvel wouldn't really keep the characters that had their own titles. So since Cap might had a backup in one of the other stories, when it goes full on, he kind of pushed out. So since a god, Thor couldn't show up anymore, now Hercules joins for it's over a year. It's over a year he's with the team. Maybe like 20, little less than like 22 months he's with the team. So that's a good period. Obviously didn't stick, but in there I want to point out he has this big battle with the Submariner. Now, he's pretty much seemingly stronger than the Submariner. The Submariner gets an edge in this story. But I just wanted to show you that they do have this battle early on. And I'm not going to get too far into this, but I just want to point it out because it's going to lead to something later. All right? So, and then I think Hercules shows up a little more in Thor as a supporting character. We're not going to show those. But then he comes back to the Avengers while Walter Simonson is rolling with Thor. This is around like Thor 250. And Hercules shows up in the battle. You'll see in this story here, you see Hercules. He's on the beach in this tropical land. He's got all the girls around him, right? That sort of thing. And that's usually the dynamic of Hercules. All right? But at the same time, there's a snowstorm. And this snowstorm will bring him into a big Walter Simonson Thor story where he comes back to the Avengers. So this leads him back to the Avengers. And he's pretty much, he makes short work a lot of the villains that are in there. Terminus, he's very, extremely confident and extremely powerful. So, he's a good adversary, but it's kind of hard to do something besides having him be fighting, having him be, a braggart, all that stuff. I think they were Bob Harris did a story where to show that he was kind of a BSer, that he was kind of false bravado. And it was a pretty decent story. The story is about how much powerful he is to Thor. And while Roger Stern was doing that, and this was the point of this video, to show you one of the dynamics that really worked. So in this Avengers 262, we have Thor versus the Submariner, right? And I bought this, I think I hadn't bought the Avengers, but I was a John Buscema fan, and my friends didn't like this art, so they'd see me buy it, and they'd be like, why is he still buying it? And I would just keep buying it, because I didn't buy it regularly. I think probably in the 270s I started buying it regularly, but I bought this issue, and I was a Submariner fan, so I was like, oh no, Hercules is gonna gonna beat up Thor, right? Sorry, guys. So in this issue, it's kind of a low-key issue for the Avengers, and they go out to see this on a scientific, basically, they're reading mail. There's some story with the villains thing showing up in here, right? With the Enclave. They always try to make the Enclave into something else. They go to this uncharted island with Stingray, who we saw in the beginning, and we run into Submariner. And Submariner, people think he's gonna, some people think he's gonna fight. Not the Black Knight. The Wasp is, but he's like, nope. I'm here to see the Newells. And he brings some lobster for them, and he walks off somberly, right? And seeing this great tragedy, he's been rejected by his people, the Atlanteans, and this Hydro base. The Hydro base becomes the Avengers headquarters, right? And they're gonna move the Avengers there, right? And they're saying, hey, look at all the things. So it's basically them getting a new headquarters. So it's a very low-key issue. So they're showing what their new headquarters and the defenses. And Hercules doesn't care about any of that, of course. And this is what the best part of what you can do with Hercules is just say, he's not necessarily your standard superhero. And this is why he kind of didn't work in the Champions, because they hadn't figured out what his character was. And I think going back to what Kirby, that he's just there for the adventure, that's a good kind of take for him, right? So he's making fun of the Submariner. Prince No More sees him, and Submariner doesn't want to fight, doesn't even care about the insults, right? He said, no reason, he just tosses the Submariner. Right, and the Submariner comes back, and I was like, "Oh yeah, good read. Look, it's going to be a good fight." Submariner punches him. He's like, I don't feel it's like a feeble tap, and he throws a rock at him, and somehow he immediately falls down. Submariner goes back and punches him back in the sea, and then the water renews the strength of a true Submariner. And then they're punching so hard they're shaking up the Hydro base, right? And then Captain Marvel stops them. Submariner's surprised to see someone that powerful, and then they think it's Namor, but it's not Namor. It was Hercules, right? Hercules is having a funny time about it, he said. I did not like the doleful look of the Submariner. The Namor I had fought many times was a mighty man, a soul truly worthy of the gift of battle. And that's one of the things that Hercules likes to do, is having the gift of battle. I wanted to prove myself that he was still worthy. And then, of course, the Submariner thinks about it and says, wow, Hercules, I believe I see the logic in your actions, and mad as they were, right? And then they go off to be, he gives them another gift, and he gives them some more fish, right? And he got a clam bake, and Submariner brings the best seafood to the crew, right? And this leads to Submariner joining. And instead of roaming alone, he points out that Submariner was the one who actually defrosted him, and he would join the Avengers. So it's a real, it was a low-key issue, but turned into a very fun issue. So I had this off the stands, and I also had this one here, which is, we'll get into that if everyone wants to talk about it. At some point I'm going to get to this. I haven't done a full expose on it, but I plan to. So in this issue, we're not getting to what lurks in Jamaica Bay, but you should know what it is. This is old as anyone knows. Get out there! He's a bad guy. Sorry. That's a terrible kitty, right? So when they get to the Avengers Mansion, you go in there and trying to show you what the rooms look like. And the Submariner sees Hercules' room, and he's like, this is perfect. And he said, no, this is mine. And he said, I like it. I like it a great deal, Hercules, of course. You wouldn't mind switching rooms. Yes, I would mind. See here, Hercules. No, you see here. So he created this nice dynamic between Hercules and Submariner. I think almost better than Hercules and Thor, where Thor's kind of trying to stop Hercules. These two, you don't know what you're gonna get when you put the two of them together. So, of course, I think John Byrne is looking at this, and the Hulk is gone mad. So, oh man, let's get this back to where it's supposed to be. Yeah, here we go. All right. So we have this issue where the bicoastal Avengers fight the Hulk. So we're not going to get too much into this issue. The Hulk's gone mad. Banner's been split, right? But he's in the hospital, right? And Hulk is just destroying. I think it's in New Mexico, right? He's just destroying, and we got the West Coast. They show up first, and they start the beat down at first, but the Hulk comes back, right? And they realize they're kind of holding back. There's no humanity to him, so they're not sure why they're holding back. They always think about Bruce Banner, and he still is on the rampage, right? And then they talk about the process of, jump-starting Bruce Banner, but the trauma that he's been through, his mind shut down, right? So the Hulk is about to take out Iron Man, and then Hercules comes out of nowhere. And he said Hercules can't fly, but the Submariner can. And he flew them all the way from the West Coast to the East Coast to New Mexico. And then the Submariner says, these West Coast Avengers don't seem to be doing too well. And then, Wonder Man, he says, so I suppose you could do better. And Namor's like, of a certainty, the two of you may possess great power, but you are, after all, mere mortals. Hercules and I are much more than human. And Hercules says, and 'twould seem our foe, right? So there's no limit to his range. But the Submariner remembers he won against the Hulk, but he forgot he'd been flying Hercules all the way across the continent, right? So then the Hulk just knocks him back, right? But Hercules gets into the fray. And then the Hulk comes back. And then they're going to finally work together. And you get a little backdrop of when Jen first met Bruce Banner after so many years, right? So we see Doc Samson attack these Avengers that had already been through a fight with the Hulk, which leaves them slightly weakened, right? So the difference between regular people is that they sort of slow down, whereas the Hulk, keeps getting stronger and stronger, right? And this shows it. It's like, hey, he said, Wonder Man in peak condition may well be stronger than me. He said, but you've just been through a fight with the Hulk, right? So Submariner doesn't care. So this is the best part of these two. Submariner doesn't care that the Hulk is there and they need to stop him. He's like, he has to be punished for attacking the Submariner. So they good, Iron Man is like, I can't, let's just get rid of him and then we'll deal with the Hulk, right? And then Hercules in the big fight is going at it with the Hulk, but he's like, wait a second, one who fights with mind as well as might. And then Hercules leaves the fight with the Hulk. So then they're fighting Doc Samson, and they realize the Hulk is just walking off, and then they're like, we can catch him off guard. And then they have a talk, and they talk through Doc Samson. He wants the chance to stop the Hulk because he set him free, right? But Hercules is like, hey, this is a thing of honor. So he lets, he agrees. So this is one of the best parts of it, right? So ultimately, through this period, Hercules is, Submariner has some struggles, I think, with the government, because he was, last time he was working with the event, when he was on Earth, he was enemy many a times, many a crimes, many times he was trying to take over the world. So that leads him to lead the Avengers for a little while. But at the same time, we have the storyline that people like. So this gets some out of my part. I just think they should have done some more Submariner. This is the whole point of the video. They should have done some more Submariner and Hercules, because the two of them are just hilarious. Like this dynamic, I don't even know why was it Roger Stern didn't do more with them, because I think it's a fun dynamic, and it brings the Submariner out of his doldrums and worrying about stuff and just looking for the next battle. So, but I think the storyline everyone remembers and thinks is one of the great ones is Hercules' Last Stand. Now, it is a great story for the Masters of Evil, because they look pretty lame in the Secret Wars. And these guys, there's a bunch of guys in here. These are all like Thor villains. Some of them that have been fought to a standstill. And Hercules makes short work of these guys. But we'll just go through this quickly and then we're going to end it. Right? So they've taken over the Avengers Mansion and nobody can get in. Right? So when they get in there, Hyde just destroys them. Now, the problem is here, Hyde gets to beat everyone up. I think ultimately, this is some classic Palmer and John Buscema and Tom Palmer. Only problem is when I used to buy these comics, I definitely had this one, or have this one still. My friends were like, why? And I was like, no, I still liked it, right? So they capture Jarvis, and they've got the Black Knight, right? So Zemo's plans are working, and this is one of the best parts of Captain Marvel, is that she can be anywhere instantaneously. This is the best part, because she can form light, but it was almost a ruse. They get her, and what's it Blackout? He's able to capture her in black, and she can't escape. All right, so they got her. She's out. All right, and I think this storyline's how Jarvis loses his eye. All right, and Cap runs into Jan and said, we got a problem, right? So they kind of realize that the Avengers Mansion had been captured. And they're waiting for Hercules to get here so they can trash him, right? So he'll be caught off guard, right? And we see he's been messing with, messing with these women, and he has been drinking, and they want to get him away from the Avengers Mansion, right? And they tell him that they've been taking over the mansion, and he's like, why are we just talking around? We're just talking, and we should just be handling business. And he especially has had it with Wasp as the leader, right? Now, Wasp was the leader when he first got there. Like in one period, she was leading the team. So it's kind of, when they always bring up all the other people like Hank and, Reed Richards, here's Hercules, like, fool woman, when this is done, I shall demand new leadership in the Avengers, right? So Hercules doesn't care, this ambush. He's just gonna break in. He's like, no, I'll just beat up Tiger Shaw, right? And they're like, he's here. So Cap and Wasp come, but they get taken out by the Avengers' defenses, right? But luckily, Wasp was further out where she can't be brought in, when Cap is brought in. And then we see Tiger Shark get finished. Said, you're no equal to the Submariner. And he fights some of the Wrecking Crew and Hyde, and he's ready to fight them. But this is where the story went left for me, because ultimately Hercules should be kind of durable, but he just slams him into a couple of walls. And it's not like slamming him into like vibranium or adamantium. It's just, what's the name? And they knock him out. And then they beat the crap out of him, right? And then after beating him up, they toss him out. And they can't find a pulse. Even a god can die. So the next issue is kind of like the Godfather, where he's in the hospital and the Avengers, the Master Evils try to kill him worse while he's in the hospital. So we're not going to get into that. It's a long period. There's a few issues, but everyone really likes that storyline of, Under Siege before the movie. And then we have the Wrath of Zeus, where they go back to Olympus to heal Hercules. I think Prometheus brings him back to life. He's a little out of sorts, and Zeus is not happy, and he thinks they did something to his son, so he beats up the entire Avengers, and then he's left to fight someone else, and that someone else actually is Hercules. And Hercules has to own up that it was his fault. So I'm not sure. I know people like this sort of story form, but it wasn't Hercules' best moment. I mean, I understand you're worrying about Hercules and worrying that he's gonna die. That's one thing, but it was just kind of not really the best issue for them. But a lot of people like Under Siege, so I just wanted to show you this. Is I think Roger Stern had hit goal. I think I've talked about it before with Submariner and Hercules. I think Hercules stays on Olympus, and Thor becomes a regular part of the team up until Walter Simonson writes it. So there we go. I mean, this is my feeling, is that if it wasn't clear, that Hercules, to find his way in the Marvel universe, at this point is too similar to Thor. And Thor has already done things in space, things in on Asgard. So the hard part is you also have Hercules as a good reactor. He seems to be a good reactor for the comic books, right? For teams. Now, he wasn't a good reactor for the champions because he was very straight-laced, and he was almost like a Thor clone, right? And then I think this period kind of found a good thing between, being a prince of power, being the braggart, being kind of, just wanting the gift of battle from time to time, that sort of thing. So this was a good period for Hercules. But this is Hercules in the part of a group. So this is kind of finding his way in the group. Now, trying to get him into his own thing is extremely hard because they're constantly going the same ground as Thor. And at the same time, if you dislike Thor and then you just use all of Thor's bits or take Thor's, villains, you're not finding Hercules' character. And you could have some of the classic Hercules battles, but at the same time, the Marvel Universe is a little more grounded. So when you have Hercules running into Atlas and holding up the Earth, it's kind of hard to do those type of things. You can have him fighting the Hydra or stuff like that, but it's trying to find this middle ground and finding something that would be worthy of not just one, two stories. So I don't know about him as a solo character, but definitely this period in the Avengers kind of showed that he would be a good member of an Avengers team. You know, I think the cartoon has also done it too, where he's kind of jovial and confident and wants to go into the next battle. So, but that doesn't necessarily lead you to what kind of work for the Marvel solo characters, or where you have Spider-Man, Thor, Captain America even had some sort of struggle with the man at a time in the Marvel universe. Having a dynamic and the hard part is he's not a character that you can just put some sort of struggle on, because they did add some struggle to Thor, having him have a struggle with humility, having him be torn between two worlds, that sort of thing. So if you try to do that with Zeus and all that stuff, you're just running into the same sort of thing. So you're just trying to find out. I think it did feel, but you know, the one in the DC universe, the one that George Perez was doing was a villain. So it's the quest to find the best dynamic for Hercules is still yet to be found. But when you have someone behind him like Thor, and regretfully they're going to meet in the Marvel universe, it seems like Hercules is going to be the straight-laced one, and Thor is going to be the jovial one. So it's Marvel universe. This is why getting the characterization right is key, you know, because I already showed you the dynamic. So yeah, but this I think is kind of a good period for Hercules. It's like, how long was he with the team? Maybe 3 years? I think 3 years. It's like, showed you 249. Yeah, so it's like 3 years. He's like almost 3 years with the team on this run. So yeah, and I think, you know, who is it? Roger Stern didn't know he had gold, but do like the issues that he did. Spinner Rack is out.
You're serious? Ah, never mind.